You're not getting any younger, so
stop settling in your business or life and start making your ask.
Hey you! Yes, you! Welcome to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast, a podcast for people who want to disrupt their lives for a good reason, to make it count. I'm your host, Jen Glantz, and every week I'll drop a new episode with stories from real people just like you, who woke up one morning and decided to make big changes, starting with small things. We'll cover topics like entrepreneurship, love, failure, and self-care. Hey, you're not getting any younger, so let's make this an adventure. Ready? Hey you! Welcome back to another episode of You're Not Getting Any Younger. I'm your host, Jen Glantz, the one who usually wears the most sparkly pants. Thank you for your ear time. Having you as a listener to this podcast just means so much. And if you have the chance, hit the subscribe button, rate or review so that others can find this show. And please don't be shy. Come hang out with us in the You're Not Getting Any Younger secret Facebook group. Now, today's episode is a topic that makes me cringe more than going to the gynecologist or figuring out who is going to pay on a first date. We're talking about negotiations. I have felt my insides roar with nerves every time I've had to negotiate my salary or have to listen to a raise that my boss gave me that I knew was too low. And I'm also the kind of person who is useless at a flea market. Negotiation just makes me uncomfortable. The idea that I have to ask for things makes me go silent, and standing up for what I know I deserve sometimes makes me just fall short or accept pay that I know is too low. Not anymore. Meet Devon Smiley. Yeah, her last name is Smiley. How cool is that? She's a negotiation consultant and speaker with 15 years of experience. She's closed $5 billion of commercial contracts as a lead negotiator, and her advice, I really think, is worth millions. And hopefully one day, it'll make you that much. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Devon, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I have to say that I think you have the greatest last name ever.
I try to live up to it.
Your last name is Smiley. You must get a lot of people giving you comments about your last name. What's it like having that as a last name?
I want to say that for all the teasing you would have gotten as a kid over having this last name, as an adult, it is a door opener, because who is going to be in a grumpy mood after seeing the document come across with the name Smiley on it? I think it really helps me out.
I feel like it fits your personality. I don't know you too well, but I feel like there couldn't be a better last name for you. Do you feel the same way?
It does fit our whole family. We're a family of Smileys.
I love it.
When I used to have a dog, my little dog, he was a Smiley too.
I love it. It is the greatest. And it's really great for what your profession is. You are a negotiation consultant. And I have to ask you, how does one get into the business of negotiation?
Oh my goodness. I know no one ever grows up thinking that they'll end up here. For me, I actually took on negotiation as a job because it sort of seemed like, okay, just the thing you do in a career path. You know, it'll be my next, skipping stone on the way to bigger, better things. And then I got into the position and realized, oh no, I really like this negotiation thing. And a lot of people really hate it. And a lot of people are really bad at it. So after spending a few years in corporate, honing my skills, I decided, I want to help other people. I want to help the guy who hears the word negotiation and just wants to pee their pants. There's a better way. I can teach them how to do it.
Yeah, I'm that person that wants to pee their pants. To me,
Yeah.
Negotiation to me is scarier than I'd say public speaking or jumping out of a plane. To me, it just feels like the hardest thing to do. So what do you find so thrilling about it?
I think for me, it was the real switch in my brain was realizing how much it's about just building relationships. And, there's all sorts of negotiation expert guru types who will say, no, there's these tactics, you can use techniques, and it's sort of like trickery to get what you want. It's manipulative. And that's, one side of what negotiation can be. But on the other side, the more wholesome side, it really is just about understanding what makes another person tick and then how to actually work with them and have a real conversation, have a healthy conversation with someone about what both of you want. And I just love that it didn't have to be slimy and sleazy. It can be so wonderful.
I like how you describe yourself as the new school way of negotiating versus the old school way, because I feel like the old school way is people will tell you, stare the person down and, like do all of these slimy things. And I feel like I'm just not good at that, where I'm just a people pleaser. So what do you mean by the new school way of negotiation?
For me, that really means, saying goodbye to all the tactics of, locking people in rooms till 3 a.m. till they're too tired and then they finally agree. No yelling, no banging fists on the table, no threatening. There's all this horrible conflict that these techniques tend to bring up. And for me, the new school really is about being collaborative and building a relationship. And you can still use techniques, but you're using them in a way that actually feels good. And you don't have to be someone you're not. Like if you are a people pleaser and you are an absolute sweetheart, you don't have to be not a sweetheart in order to be a great negotiator.
I like that because I think especially, I know women have a harder time negotiating. I think why is probably because they feel like they have to become somebody else. They feel like they have to walk into that room and take the smile off and, slam the fist down. Yeah. And it's not like that. So I saw a statistic that about 59% of people don't bother negotiating their salary, which seems crazy, but I have been one of those people, especially.
So have I.
Yes. Especially when you're first, starting out. And why do you think in general negotiation makes people feel so uncomfortable?
Well, I think for a lot of people, the difficulty comes in actually realizing at this moment I am speaking up and making a declaration about how much I am worth.
Yep.
And they don't want to look like a braggart and they don't want to look like a real asshole, to be frank.
Yep.
So they'll downplay that because, I don't want them to think I'm a mean person. I want them to like me. I want us to get along because I'm just going to start this job and I'm going to have to work with these people for the next couple of years. So I'm going to get this started on the right foot by just accepting whatever they give me.
Exactly. That's so true. Is I used to think in my head, I don't want to ruffle the feathers before I've even entered.
I'm going to look difficult.
Yeah, I don't want to be that person that has that reputation, which probably, would you say, is something that you're making up and they're hoping you negotiate?
I think in a lot of situations, especially if we're dealing with something like a power imbalance, like this giant company and you're just this little employee, they hope you don't negotiate because they have lowballed you.
Yep.
Like they've come in ambitiously low in that case. And they're hoping you don't negotiate because they probably have some wiggle room, but they'd rather not have to use it. So in that case, nothing would be greater than for you just to be like, yep, where do I sign?
Yep. That's been me.
Yeah.
I've been that fool. We have a question from someone in the You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group. Katie says that she doesn't even know how to negotiate at a flea market. So how do people get the confidence to start?
To start, it really is practice. Practice. And it's starting with really, really small things. Something as simple as when you go to the coffee shop and you want an extra napkin. Like, can I please have a napkin? Or a big one, and I get caught in this, is if you need the key to use the bathroom, you actually ask for the key. Instead of just being like, oh no, I'll hold it till I get home.
Yep.
So I don't want to have to interrupt this person in their, barista process to get the key to the restroom. And it's little things like that. It's just like, this is something I want, something I need, something that will make my life easier. I'm going to ask for it. And it will build from there.
That's something that I really think I struggle with, is someone who I used to be very shy, and I think that carries through now when I'm a little nervous. I can't even ask for those basic things because I feel like I'm burdening people. So asking for those simple things is a great first step. But then what happens when you ask for the key to the bathroom, or at the coffee shop, you ask for the napkin and they say no? How do you then find the courage and the confidence to negotiate or to speak back up when that happens? Because you just get so shut off and down.
Yeah, it'll be like, okay, no, thank you very much.
Right. Never going to ask again in my entire life.
I'm feeling it out there. I will never get coffee here again.
Exactly. I'm going to write you a bad Yelp review.
face. I'm embarrassed. I'm known as the napkin lady now.
Yes, exactly. So how do you take it to step 2 of negotiating or jumping into an offer?
It's always that when you hear the no, you ask a question back. You want to get some sort of a conversation going. And obviously, if you're in like a big business setting, this is a different type of conversation. But if they've said no to a napkin and like you can literally see the napkins right there, just ask again.
Yep.
Oh, really? No, please. I would really appreciate it. And don't just take the no right away.
Here's the problem I have personally is that I think being shy, asking for something that's out of my comfort zone, hearing no back, then I immediately go into anger mode because I'm like, it took me so much courage to ask the question and now I'm getting a no and I go from like 0 to 100 with anger. So my question back would be like, why not? You have napkins sitting right there, So how do you stay cool if you find yourself getting a little bit angry, having to push back, or you find yourself getting nervous?
I think, first of all, step 1 is recognizing you have that happen.
Yes.
A lot of people don't really realize they have the emotion. Not everyone is so in sync with how their emotions are showing up. So step 1, realize you tend to have that emotional reaction. If you feel that surge in that moment, the best thing to do may not be to actually ask for that napkin again. It's just, you know what? I'm too angry right now. I don't want an incident. This will end up on YouTube. We don't want this. Career killer. And just taking that anger and using it as fuel for the next time. Because you'll remember, like, that felt really crappy when I heard that no. But it's going to feel really awesome when I do get the yes. And so when you're, down the street, you're running around about the rest of your day, you're going to ask for something else and you'll get the yes, and it will make that no feel like nothing. It'll feel so much better.
If you are in the position of money and you are asking for a raise, you're asking for a higher salary, or you're working with a client and you're asking for a certain dollar amount and they do say that no and you find yourself with the anger, is that something that you should walk away from in the moment and perhaps respond later, especially if it's not in person? Or is that something where you should try to, take a deep breath, calm yourself down and come back with another, offer or another number?
I think if you can calm yourself down, it's great to at least have one more sort of swing at it. So you've made a proposal, they've said no, asking the question, okay, I understand that won't work for you, but could you describe to me what would? Or do you have any ideas for how we could make this work for you?
Yeah.
And trying to get a conversation going, trying to get the information out of them, frankly.
In the workplace setting or in the money setting, when you get the no and you come back with another opportunity or another proposal, do you look desperate? If you're saying, well, you couldn't do that, but with the money you're offering, can you do this? Does it make you look desperate to come back?
Nope. As long as you're coming back with something that actually makes sense for your business. If you've asked for $10,000 for disengagement for the client work, and they say no, and you're like, okay, I can do it for 100.
Yes.
Okay, we've gone too far.
Yeah, that's me. That's me. I'm like, oh, you couldn't do that? How about free? Does that work for you?
Yeah, free. Just let me, please let me do it for free. That's where it helps to actually go in knowing a few of your steps ahead of time. So you're going to say, I want the 10,000. That's what I would love. If I can't get that, maybe like 8,000 would do. But I'm going to need an extra week to deliver on the project because I'll be trying to get some other client work in there. Coming up with a few scenarios so that as you get that reaction, when you say, why isn't this working for you? What could work for you? In your back pocket, your little brain's going, I have another option. You're already prepared. You can put that out there. You don't accidentally offer to do the entire project for free.
Yep. Been there, done that. When you have those backup situations, do you keep those private, or should you, if you have a client, you don't know what their budget is, you don't know how much they want to spend on this, should you approach them and say, listen, I have 3 offers, highest, medium, and low, or do you just go up with your highest and wait for their response?
I find offers making the 3 different options can be really effective, provided you would be equally satisfied with either of them. So it's sort of the thing where if you have in your service level, like, gold, silver, bronze.
Yep.
And each has a different scaled level of your involvement. It's not like, here's the gold, and you could have it at 3 different prices. No.
Right.
That's just negotiating against yourself. But here you could have my gold, silver, or bronze, which one of these best fits, and you can adjust from there, you can customize from there. But that's a good way to get the conversation started and to set expectation that if those price points are like, 10, 15, 20, they're not going to come back and be like, well, I have $200. Can I get a gold?
Yeah.
No.
I was thinking before we started talking today, what makes me so afraid when it comes to negotiation. And I think deep down to the core, I have this belief that if I ask for something and the person's going to just say back to me, oh, you know what? Never mind, Jen. I don't want anything to do with you now because you asked for that. Is that fear rational, or is that just something that has to do with a lack of self-confidence?
I think for the fact that you would be worried about that in the first place means it's probably a lack of self-confidence.
Yep.
I know of situations where that happens when someone makes a proposal and it's an immediate no, get out of here. And it's because they've made a proposal that's completely crazy out of line. It's like walking in and demanding a 200% pay increase, or you'll walk out the door. And then the company goes, okay, there you go.
Yep.
Don't forget to hand in your badge on the way out.
And give us your computer back. Yep.
Exactly. So I think if you have the self-awareness to be concerned about asking for too much, to overreach, to even looking difficult, that means you're less likely to be going in there with the crazy request. It's more you being concerned from the confidence perspective.
I like how you've said in the past in some of the materials I've read on you that when you show up at the negotiation table, you should show up with your personality, not somebody who is nasty. How do you do that while also asking for things? Meaning sometimes when the conversation gets serious and money is involved, people's personalities naturally just change. So how do you maintain that Devon personality, even maybe when the other person's personality starts to get aggressive?
Exactly. That can be a tough one. Some people, it's sort of like the transformation into Gollum from Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
And then you start talking about money with people. And it can also be difficult too. Some people's personalities don't change when it comes to a serious topic. I know a lot of people who are very they make me look not smiley and friendly. They are so smiley friendly, but then you get them into a really tough talk situation and they're trying to deliver a strict message, but they've got this huge smile on their face, and that doesn't work. There's a mismatch there. So part of it is learning how to be comfortable putting on a different hat and knowing, okay, I'm still going to be my nice, normal, bubbly self, but in the situation, I have to tone that down because the situation calls for something different. And we do that a lot in our everyday life. Like you would show up with a different energy at a wedding than at a funeral. And we naturally do that, and we're all comfortable doing that. But in a business setting, we're like, oh no, I'll be a faker. No. Just natural adaptation. And I find when the other person starts changing, depending on your relationship with them, it can work well to have a little humor. So I have been in some situations where someone gets all of a sudden very down to brass tacks, very aggressive with me. And I'll actually call it out. I'll be like, oh, okay, the tone in here has changed a little bit in the last 30 seconds. Did we want to take a break before jumping into this new topic? Just to set a boundary, set a guideline. It could be a 5-minute break. We're both going to leave the room, but I'm not going to let it go unnoticed that you have started shifting all the crazy energy in this room to someplace a bit more firm.
When you find that somebody has brought to the table something you don't agree with after you've put out an offer, what's the best way to handle it? Is it good to say, I hear you, I understand what you're saying, or counterfeit it immediately? Do you just what do you do when you get something on the table that that's not going to work for you?
Yeah. The first thing to do, and I say this only because I have seen people do it, is not to react with are you kidding me? Get out of here. Over the top.
Yep.
It's very comedic and it could work, but it could also really annoy and piss off the other person and you're going to end up farther behind. So try not to have the over the top exaggerated effect. even if that's really what you want to scream out. The good thing is if you don't agree right away, ask them to walk you through it. Because a lot of the time, you'll have a gut reaction to something, and your gut reaction won't always be based on reality. It'll be because 2 years ago, someone said something similar, and your whole body is now going into the fight mode from that moment 2 years prior. So make sure you really understand what you're talking about, because before you understand, you can't actually counter. There's no way you're going to come up with another proposal to that. So get them talking a little bit.
People often say to me, Jen, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that is something that I try to practice every single day. So are there good tools or tricks or techniques that you have for body language? Because I know crossing your arms or, sitting with, your fist in your head. It's just, how you look at the table is also probably going to affect how you negotiate. So are there any types of techniques that are good to have on your side?
I think some of the best techniques for physical space, it really is being careful about the crossing of the arms, because that really, it does send the message that you were closed off. And especially if you're trying to exchange proposals and get a discussion going, and you're sitting there like a grumpy grump with your arms crossed, they're not really going to feel that you're listening. I find what works really well is the way even you position your chair, to not be staring at someone straight across. It's like, don't lock eyes with the wild animal. You don't want to be that confrontational. Tilt your chair a bit to the side, have your elbow on the table, be a bit more open in your language. Even for women, especially women, we tend to make ourselves quite small. I'm lucky in that I am a rather large person. I'm 5'9". I put on my heels. I'm over 6 feet tall. I take up space naturally, and a lot of women can't do that, unfortunately. So it's even things like making sure you spread out your material on the desk. If you're actually sitting at a table with someone, have 3 pieces of paper. Have your notebook, have your 2 pencils lined up, but take up a bit more space physically. That can be a good one.
I like that. I like that a lot. And how about words? I know I just did a podcast with somebody who was talking about language and how the word sorry is something that we use as a default, especially when we're nervous. So are there specific words we should avoid or we should make sure we use?
I think especially important when you're making your first ask, and this comes up a lot in salary discussions, is to practice, and get your wording very crisp. So you want to say, based on my skills and the demands of this job, the salary should be X. Rather than saying, well, I'm looking for something that's kind of roundabout, maybe between 35 and 45, but all wishy-washy.
Yep.
Avoid the wishy-washy, because if you're looking for it, but you don't expect to get it, somewhere roundabout between makes you sound like you don't know what the market is. And then offering a range, they're only going to hear the number that they want to hear. So if you said 35 to 45, you better be happy with 35, because they're not going to voluntarily bring you up to the 45.
It's so true. I remember early jobs I had, I'd say, 35 to 45, but then they'd give me 35 and I'd be so pissed because I thought they'd be closer to the 45, but that's my job to set that expectation and not theirs.
Your job is to say 50.
Yeah.
And then let the conversation bring it to a 45.
I think my question is, how do I know what I deserve, whether I'm lowballing or highballing? I can do research. I can come to the table with what I think, but I find this often as an entrepreneur, somebody who does a lot of freelance work, is sometimes I'm inventing packages. I'm inventing services, or at least it feels like that, and you're not quite sure what to charge. So how do you know what you deserve?
I think part of that, especially for freelancers or independent consultant types, is partly market research. So being able to look at your competitors online and see what they're charging roundabout. So if you're a graphic designer and you can see that most people do their logo, letterhead, business card package for about $1,200, okay, that gives you a sense of what's happening in the market. And the other part is really figuring out, especially as an independent, what you actually need to live. Because it's not as simple as, when you're getting the salary from an employer and the computer is taken care of and the printing is taken care of and the internet is taken care of. There's a lot more that goes into it. So I always encourage my clients to have a very clear sense of what their overhead costs are, what their living expenses are. And they really need to make sure that, like, if the market says 1,200, but you're going to need 1,800 to live, you better be at the 1,800.
What happens when you feel like you're desperate and you just want the money? So you're almost willing to go a little bit lower, but you're scared if you go too high, you lose it. Is there, I find that to happen quite often where you just really want the money, so you'll accept what you really don't deserve to get.
And sometimes that's okay, and we need to do that.
Okay.
And I think being able to say no to any and all work that doesn't fit exactly where we want it to fit is really a privilege. It's a luxury.
Yeah.
Not all of us have that. Some people don't ever have it, and others of us don't have it all the time. So in those situations, you may be a little disappointed, but you know what? Some money may be better than no money. And in the meantime, you are going to keep up the work, the hustle, to find other opportunities. It becomes more of a stopgap. It doesn't mean that you will then underbid on all the other work. It doesn't change your pricing structure. It just means you've bought yourself a bit of time to go find those other opportunities.
I'm happy you said that, because I find that that's a big problem a lot of people have when they're starting a business or they go freelance, is they're not sure what to charge, but they sort of need the money. So they're willing to do their first couple projects for a little less than maybe their competitors. And I like that you said don't feel bad about that. I like that you said that sometimes you got to take those jobs and while you hustle, because that's really the truth. If you think you're going to first start out and charge a lot of money, you might not get that, but you might be losing potential clients who could help you build your portfolio and help you get on your feet. So I really appreciate that you said that.
I think it's something a lot of people expect. The minute I say I'm a negotiation consultant, they're like, one, she's going to be a shark. And I'm not. I'm a very lovely woman. And two, that I'm going to force them into doing things. I'm going to be the one like amping them up to go in there and ask for an 80% pay raise.
Yep.
And then they seem both disappointed and relieved when I am not like that. You have to be realistic. You have to be credible in anything you're asking for. And especially if you're just starting out, it's going to take you some time to earn your stripes.
Yeah.
Get those projects, to build your portfolio. And even if you earned $10 doing something, if that person is well connected and can open up another world of potential clients to you, that may have been a really valuable $10.
Yeah, I agree. I've started many different career paths for myself, where I started off doing it for free, writing for free, then getting paid a little bit, but then building. So now you have a personal standard. Now I won't write an article for X amount of dollars. I know I have to get at least this amount to make it worth it for me, time-wise and experience-wise, but I wouldn't have known that without starting at the bottom and building up.
Exactly.
Question from Molly in the You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group. When negotiating, is it better to put out a number first or let the other person put out a number first?
I love this question. I may get a little nerdy. I apologize. In negotiation, it is best to go first. It
really?
Is best to put the number out first, yes. And a lot of sales trainings and a lot of other trainings, and even just people who don't really want to go first, they say, no, wait for the other guy to go, because that will give you an indication of what's going to be possible.
Yes.
But when the other person goes first, all you're going to be hearing is their most ambitious, what they hope will happen. So they're going to go, if you're the seller and they're buying, they're going to give you a really low number because they would love to get this for 2 cents. And if you then base all of your reaction off of that number, you're skewing the whole thing. It's because of anchoring. So in anchoring, the first piece of information we hear is the one that we then use to make most of our decisions on, because the human brain is wonderful and beautiful and complex, but we're also rather simple creatures. And this is like our shortcut. We use the first piece of information, the first number, as our reference. So it's important to go first, because if you really want 25,000 for an entire client project, and you think 25, 25, 25, and they jump in before and say 15, all of a sudden your human brain goes, oh no, 25 is way too high. What was I thinking? I must have my math wrong. I'll base it off of their 15, so maybe I'll drop down to 20 right away. And like, congratulations, you've just cost yourself $5,000 because you let them go first and you went off your plan. So get in there first.
I'm kicking myself because I've spent my 30 years on this planet praying that the other person goes first, just because in my head it was like a sigh of relief. Okay, that's their budget, or okay, that's how much they're willing to spend, or okay, wow, they're actually going to pay me way more than I would have asked for.
And it can go, if you find yourself having said a number and you think, oh, wait a minute, they might have said more. It means that there was a little bit more research for you to do on the market.
Right. Again, I think this is what you're teaching me in a nutshell.
Time and time again. You'll make some boo-boos. We all make some boo-boos.
Yeah. but I honestly think what you're saying that's coming really across to me hard is you have to be prepared. You know, you have to know what you're worth, what the offer should be. You can't go in blind like I have and just pray they throw out a number first. You know, that's risky.
It is risky. And sometimes the fact that you're prepared better insulates you from what happens if they do happen to go first. Because we can't control that. We can't literally like hold our hands to their mouths and be like, no, please allow me to go first. But if they then do say a number, if they say 15, you're like, actually, I've done my research. I know my value. I know the ROI all my clients have received from my work. I know 25,000 is a great number. I'm still going to go with 25.
Yep.
And that is then the start of your negotiation. And you're starting off as planned on your strongest foot.
When someone asks you in a conversation, maybe it's an intro conversation or the first time you're talking with them, how much do you charge for these services? Is it best to throw out a number? Is it best to say, hey, let me get back to you? Even when you're on a call with a HR or a potential new employer and they say, what are your salary requirements? Should you spit them out or should you hang up the phone and get back to them?
I would say with a salary, you would not want to say a number right away. First off, in some states, it's actually illegal. They can't ask you for a number. So if you feel pressured, I think Massachusetts and New York, I think, are two of the states where they can't ask you for your previous salary. So if you ever get pressured in those situations, you can not give a salary. I think in the HR situation, it's important to get a really good understanding of what their overall compensation packages are. And that won't have come up in the first interview.
Sure. You
want to be able to say, well, maybe can we get back on the line and you can walk me through what your compensation packages look like? And that's where you're going to be looking for things like, you know, is there going to be a free lunch? Will they cover your transit? What kind of health care are they giving you? That is important rather than just going, 90,000. And throwing a number out there. When you are a business owner, however, I think it's very important that you start setting the expectation. So in that case, it could be, you know, based on what we've discussed today, based on what your needs are, I'll be creating a more refined proposal for you. But my instinct tells me it will start at X. So it will start at 10,000. And you can go back and refine. And guess what? If it was only 9,000, fabulous. Look at that. You've just saved that client $1,000.
Yep.
It's a negotiation tactic. But
I love that.
But you haven't let them leave the phone call without a number.
Right.
So know what a number is. Having your chicken scratch beside you, be tallying up, okay, this, that, the other. Add a little buffer in there to make sure you're not saying a number that's too low. Because you don't want to say 10 and then it's really 15. But be able to give them a number because they're on their end going to start doing their budgeting. They're going to start trying to figure out how they can make that work if they are really excited about working with you.
I like that. And I think, again, it's just to always be prepared and to be prepared for that question because sometimes that can throw you off guard and makes you seem professional when you know what you're going to say.
Oh, exactly. And it's funny how caught off guard we get. When it's like, like two human beings have gotten onto a phone call to discuss possibly working together. And then it's like, a number comes up.
I'm laughing so hard because this is me every...
It happens. It happens to me every time too, okay?
Okay, that makes me feel better.
Everyone has this. We need to be prepared. So like my secret, I will reveal, is that when I'm about to get on a call with someone, if it's like a consult call, I've done my little bit of snooping thanks to the internet, and I already have a number written on a Post-it note, and it's usually on my computer screen. So that at the end, if I start getting the feelings and I'm like getting a little shaky, I'm like, no, I have a number I can say. And it's there clear as day.
I like that. And I like the mute button because when that question asks, I press the mute button, I let out some nerves, and then I get right back to being professional. But I like that. I like the sticky note approach that you're just prepared the whole time. And it even makes you work a little bit harder on the phone call so that you can prove your value too.
Yeah.
My last real question for you is, how do you feel about the phrase, hey, is there any room for negotiation?
I like that phrase.
You do? Okay. I was nervous you were going to be like, it's a bad phrase. You should just jump into negotiation.
I think, especially when you're getting started in negotiating, asking, is there any flexibility here? In any situation can work wonders. And that's even, I've had clients be able to use that. I had one, oh bless him. I got an email back saying he had used that at a jewelry store and ended up getting his wife an even better necklace than he had originally budgeted for. Wow. Because he was able to negotiate. I was like, oh, good man, bless you. Like that is a very good application of the skills I teach.
I like that. So if I just said, is there room for flexibility? That could open up doors. If they say no right off the bat, then do I let it go or do you ask some more questions? You could ask, you can let it go. I mean, everyone, it's their own prerogative on if you just want to let that go, or you could then ask for a specific. So, a big one that comes up is when you're getting furniture and, is there any flexibility? There might not be on price. The price may be the price. But maybe they can throw in the delivery. Or maybe they have a can of that, whatever they Scotch guard everything to prevent the red wine spills. Maybe they can give you a little something extra. It doesn't have to be financial. So it's important to always be looking sort of bigger picture. What are all the different little bits involved in this deal, this transaction we're doing? And where could those maybe be put in as sweetness? Likewise, if you are a service provider, where could you have some little bits of sweetness you can throw in? I like that. Because you will get asked for discounts. It's guaranteed. And that other person has just as much of a right to ask you for flexibility as you do to ask anyone else. And you can just say no if it isn't going to work for you. But we don't have to get all like, how dare they? Yep.
They think, don't they know who I am? No.
That's me. I know. I do that.
Yeah.
But you're right.
We might way, but we don't have to, we don't have to hang on to that feeling. We don't have to express that feeling. We can share that with our friends on Friday night.
You're right. And instead of making it a bad thing, you can almost say, wow, they had the courage to even ask. And in that sense, provide them with something that you can provide them with. Yes.
We don't do enough, valuing of people making the ask. And so if we don't want to look difficult when we ask for a napkin. So if someone asks you for a napkin, value the fact that they spoke up. That might have been the hardest thing on the planet for them to do. They may have thought about that for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I love that because I'm the one that thinks about that for 20 minutes. So I need to flip my attitude.
Yeah.
Be kind about that. One quote that you wrote me in an email that I loved so much I wanted to mention on this podcast is when I asked you to be on the podcast, you wrote back, yes, of course, life is definitely too short for us to be hemming and hawing and not asking for what we need. I love that, Devon. That is such a beautiful quote.
Thank you. It really is too short. Really is.
I agree. I want to end with a quick lightning round. So I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions and feel free to reply with whatever comes to mind.
Okay.
When you were a kid, what did you want to grow up to become?
Not a negotiation consultant. That would be a tie between ballerina and eye doctor.
Wow. Okay. Those are two very cool careers. What's your dream job now?
That would be to be an artisan and to work in a haute couture atelier doing embroidery.
Amazing. What's the best advice anyone has ever given you?
When I quit corporate to go out on my own, I had a very good friend say, if anyone in this world can do it, it's you. So don't ever give up.
I love that. My final question for you, Devon, is fill in the blank. You're not getting any younger, so
stop settling in your business or life and start making your ask.
Devon Smiley, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Please tell our listeners where they can find out more about you.
My online home is devonsmiley.com, and I spend a lot of time on Instagram at Devon M. Smiley.
You do, and your Instagram is amazing to follow and to be part of. So I'm so happy to chat with you. Thank you so much again, Devon. I really appreciate your advice today. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, you. Thank you for listening to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. There are hundreds of thousands of pods out there, so thank you for listening to this one. You can find the show notes for this week's episode up on our website, anyyounger.com. Subscribe, rate, and review the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast on iTunes so that other ears around the world can listen too. Oh, and join our secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, where over 1,000 people are talking about how to disrupt their lives, for a good reason, to make it count. Until next week, all my love, Jen Glantz.